Welcome to Documentary Reel. Today, we're diving into one of the most audacious and perplexing mysteries in American history. It's a tale of a daring criminal, a high-stakes ransom, and a leap of faith into the unknown that has captivated investigators and amateur sleuths for over half a century. This is the complete story of the man known only as D.B. Cooper. The afternoon of November 24, 1971, began like any other travel day. It was the day before Thanksgiving, and passengers were boarding Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 in Portland, Oregon, bound for Seattle, Washington. The flight was short, barely a 30-minute trip. Among the passengers was a quiet, middle-aged man in a business suit, carrying a black attaché case. He purchased his ticket under the name Dan Cooper, a name that would soon become legendary, albeit slightly misreported by the press as D.B. Cooper. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. Thinking it was just a lonely businessman's phone number, she initially slipped it into her purse without reading it. Cooper leaned closer and insisted she read it, reportedly saying, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The note, written in neat, all-caps lettering with a felt-tip pen, was chillingly direct. It confirmed his claim of having a bomb in his briefcase and laid out his demands. He wanted $200,000 in negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the aircraft upon arrival. The flight attendant immediately informed the captain, William Scott. The captain, in turn, contacted Seattle-Tacoma Airport Air Traffic Control, which relayed the information to local and federal authorities. The president of Northwest Orient Airlines, Donald Nyrop, authorized the payment of the ransom, prioritizing the safety of the 36 passengers and 6 crew members on board. While the authorities on the ground scrambled to meet his demands, Cooper remained remarkably calm and polite on the plane. He ordered a bourbon and soda, paid for his drink, and even offered to pay for a second one. The flight attendants later described him as being thoughtful and well-spoken, never cruel or nasty. He was specific about his requirements for the money, demanding it in unmarked $20 bills. He was also precise about the parachutes, requesting 2 primary back chutes and 2 reserve chest chutes. The demand for 4 parachutes was a clever move, suggesting he might take a hostage with him, thereby ensuring the authorities wouldn't sabotage the gear. The plane circled Puget Sound for approximately 2 hours, burning off fuel to ensure a safe landing weight while the FBI gathered the ransom money and parachutes. On the ground, agents were frantically photographing all 10,000 of the $20 bills, creating a permanent record of the serial numbers that they hoped would eventually lead them to the hijacker. At 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 landed safely at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. Cooper ordered the pilot to taxi the aircraft to an isolated, brightly lit section of the tarmac, away from the main terminal. He demanded that all the window shades be drawn to prevent any potential police snipers from having a clear view. An airline employee brought the cash-filled knapsack and the parachutes aboard the plane. Once his demands were met, Cooper upheld his end of the bargain. He allowed all passengers, along with flight attendants Florence Schaffner and Alice Hancock, to disembark. Only Captain Scott, First Officer Bob Radizak, Flight Engineer H.E. Anderson, and 1 flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, remained on board with the hijacker. While the Boeing 727 was being refueled, Cooper outlined the next phase of his plan to the cockpit crew. He dictated a precise flight path. They were to fly southeast, towards Mexico City. He specified the flight parameters. The plane was to fly at a low altitude of 10,000 feet, at a slow airspeed of just under 200 knots. He also instructed them to fly with the landing gear down and the wing flaps at 15 degrees, configurations that would maintain the slow speed. Most crucially, he demanded that the aft air stair of the Boeing 727, a staircase at the rear of the plane, be left in the down position during takeoff. The crew initially protested, stating that it was not safe to take off with the aft stair deployed. Cooper was insistent, and they had no choice but to comply. At approximately 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 took off again from Seattle, with only Cooper and 4 crew members aboard. 2 F-106 fighter jets from a nearby Air Force base were scrambled to shadow the Boeing 727, but they were instructed to keep their distance to avoid spooking the hijacker. Shortly after 8 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit, indicating that the aft air stair had been activated. The captain used the cabin intercom to ask Cooper if he needed any assistance. Cooper's final words were a calm "no." That was the last communication anyone ever had with the man known as Dan Cooper. Around 8:13 p.m., somewhere between Seattle and Reno, over the rugged, forested terrain of southwestern Washington, the crew felt a sudden change in air pressure. They believed this was the moment Cooper jumped. The plane continued on its predetermined course. 2 hours later, with enough fuel to have reached Reno, the crew landed the Boeing 727 safely at Reno Airport. Authorities immediately stormed the aircraft, but as they suspected, it was empty. All that was left behind was Cooper's black clip-on tie, a tie clasp, 2 of the 4 parachutes, and the cigarette butts he had smoked. The man, the money, and one of the parachutes had vanished into the stormy, pitch-black night. Thus began one of the most extensive and expensive manhunts in U.S. history, codenamed Norjack, for Northwest hijacking. The FBI, along with the Army, Air Force, and local law enforcement, launched a massive search of the suspected jump zone. They combed the dense forests and treacherous mountains of southwestern Washington, a nearly impossible task given the vastness of the wilderness and the harsh winter conditions. Helicopters and ground troops searched for weeks, but found absolutely nothing: no parachute, no money, no briefcase, and no sign of Cooper himself. The FBI immediately started investigating potential suspects. They compiled a list that would eventually grow to include over 800 individuals. They interviewed known criminals, paratroopers, and anyone with a specific skill set required to pull off such a heist. The physical description was vague: a man in his mid-40s, about 6 feet tall, with a quiet demeanor. The FBI developed a composite sketch that became one of the most famous in law enforcement history, but it led to countless dead ends. Years passed, and the case grew colder. The legend of D.B. Cooper, the gentleman skyjacker, grew larger. Was he an experienced paratrooper who made a clean getaway? Or did he perish in the jump, his body and the money lost forever to the unforgiving wilderness? Then, in February 1980, nearly 9 years after the hijacking, a surprising discovery was made. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram, while digging a fire pit on a sandy stretch of the Columbia River at a place called Tennebar, unearthed a bundle of decaying $20 bills. The bills were waterlogged and bundled together with rubber bands. When the FBI was notified, they confirmed the serial numbers. It was a match. The boy had found $5,800 of D.B. Cooper's ransom money. This discovery electrified the investigation but also deepened the mystery. Tennebar was far from the projected jump zone. How did the money get there? Did it float down the river from a location upstream where Cooper might have landed? Or did Cooper bury it there himself and plan to come back for it later? Extensive dredging and searching of the area around Tennebar yielded no further clues. No more money was ever found, and the rest of the $194,200 remains unaccounted for to this day. In 2001, the FBI announced that they could extract a partial DNA profile from the clip-on tie that Cooper had left on the plane. This allowed them to eliminate many suspects, but it did not lead to a definitive match with any known individual in their databases. Over the decades, dozens of men have been named as potential suspects by amateur sleuths, authors, and even family members. Some had parachuting experience, some bore a resemblance to the composite sketch, and some made cryptic deathbed confessions. Yet, for every promising suspect, the FBI found evidence that ruled them out. One prominent suspect was Richard McCoy Jr., a Vietnam veteran and skydiving enthusiast who conducted a similar hijacking just a few months after Cooper's. However, McCoy was eventually ruled out due to a mismatch in physical descriptions and the fact he had a solid alibi for the night of the Cooper hijacking. Another was Dwayne Weber, who reportedly confessed to his wife on his deathbed, "I am Dan Cooper." While intriguing, the FBI could not find any hard evidence to link him to the crime and ruled him out after a DNA comparison. In July 2016, after 45 years of active investigation, the FBI officially announced that it was closing the D.B. Cooper case. They concluded that resources would be better redirected to other, more pressing priorities. The case file, containing more than 60 volumes of information, remains open to review if any new physical evidence, like the parachute or the rest of the money, ever emerges. The fate of D.B. Cooper remains a complete enigma. Did he survive the perilous jump into a freezing storm and escape with the money, living out his days in quiet anonymity? Or did the wilderness claim him, his skeleton and the fortune lying undiscovered in some remote canyon? The story endures because it speaks to a fantasy of beating the system and getting away with it. Cooper was not a violent criminal in the typical sense. He was polite, calculated, and ultimately, he just disappeared, leaving behind a legacy of mystery that continues to fascinate us all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's greatest unsolved cases, be sure to subscribe to Documentary Reel for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world.